It was supposed to be just another quiet evening. My husband had left early that morning for a business trip, and I was getting used to the idea of handling everything on my own for a few days. The house felt a little too big, a little too empty without him, but I told myself it was nothing I couldn't handle. After all, it was just me and our son at home. What could possibly go wrong? The night started out like any other. I made dinner, helped my son with his homework, and we watched a little TV before bed. Everything felt normal, almost peaceful. But deep down, I had this strange feeling, like something was just off. I brushed it aside, blaming it on missing my husband and being overly tired. But I wasn't imagining it. A few hours later, something happened that shook me to my core. My son, who had always been sweet, quiet, and thoughtful, did something so unexpected, so unbelievable, I stood there frozen, not knowing whether to laugh, cry, or run out of the room. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation, but the more I looked at him, the more questions filled my mind. Was this just a harmless mistake, or was there something much deeper going on? Was he trying to tell me something in his own way? At that moment, I realized this night was not going to be anything like the quiet, simple evening I had planned. It was only the beginning of a night I would never forget, and the truth behind what my son did would change everything for our family. And trust me, it was nothing like I ever expected. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to process what I was seeing. My son, Daniel, was sitting in the middle of the living room floor, surrounded by things he had pulled out from a hidden drawer I didn't even know existed. Old papers, photographs, and something that looked like a letter. A letter with my name written on it in my husband's handwriting. My heart started racing. Why would my husband hide something like this? And why was Daniel the one to find it? Daniel looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes, like he knew he had done something wrong, but didn't quite understand what. I could tell he was nervous, almost scared, and that worried me even more. He held the letter out to me with trembling hands, and without thinking, I stepped forward to take it. But before I could even open it, he blurted out something that made my knees go weak. "Mom, I think Dad didn't want you to know." Those words echoed in my head, over and over. What was in this letter? What secret had my husband kept hidden all this time? I wanted to open it right then and there, but something stopped me. A part of me was terrified of what I might find. The night had already taken such a strange turn, and now it felt like I was standing at the edge of something even bigger, something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. I sat down slowly beside Daniel, trying to keep my voice steady as I asked him where he found all of this. He told me he had been looking for his favorite toy, the one he always slept with when his dad was away. He said the drawer popped open by accident when he was reaching behind the couch. I wanted to believe it was just an innocent discovery, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that nothing about this night was an accident. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence between us. I stared at the letter in my hands, my mind racing with possibilities. Was it about me? About our marriage? About something even bigger? I didn't know. All I knew was that whatever was written inside had been hidden for a reason, and now there was no turning back. My fingers tightened around the letter as I sat there, still frozen in the moment. Part of me wanted to tear it open immediately, but another part, the scared part, hesitated. What if reading it changed everything? What if the life I thought I knew was never real? Daniel sat close to me, his little hand brushing against mine, offering silent comfort. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but he could feel the heaviness in the room. I finally took a deep breath and unfolded the letter, my eyes scanning the first few lines. But it wasn't what I expected at all. It wasn't a love letter or an apology. It was instructions. Clear, specific instructions about things hidden around the house. Things my husband said I would need if anything ever happened to him. My stomach dropped. What did that even mean? Was he in trouble? Was he hiding something dangerous from us? The words were rushed, messy, almost like he had written them in a panic. He mentioned a box hidden under the floorboards in the garage, a set of keys taped under the kitchen sink, and a phone number to call, only if necessary. My heart pounded louder with every line I read. I looked over at Daniel, wondering how much he had seen or understood. I didn't want to scare him, but I couldn't hide the fear in my eyes anymore. Then, something clicked in my mind. I remembered the strange phone calls my husband had been getting late at night over the past few weeks. I remembered the way he brushed them off, saying it was just work stress. I wanted so badly to believe him then, but now, sitting here with this letter in my hands, everything felt different. Every small, odd moment suddenly seemed important. Pieces of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was putting together. And there was something else. A part of me started wondering if maybe my husband wasn't the only one keeping secrets. If he was so scared that he needed to hide things from us, what else could be going on? Could someone be watching us? Were we even safe in our own home? I folded the letter back up with shaking hands, my mind racing. Whatever this was, it was bigger than I had ever imagined. And somehow, my son had unknowingly pulled us right into the middle of it. I knew I couldn't just sit there. Every second that passed made my heart race faster. The letter had led me here, but it was only the beginning. I had to find the box in the garage. I stood up, telling Daniel to stay inside and lock the front door behind me. He nodded, clutching his toy tightly to his chest. I tried to smile at him, but my face felt stiff, too weighed down by fear and questions. The garage was cold and smelled of oil and old wood. I flipped on the light, but it barely made a dent in the darkness. The letter said the box was hidden under the floorboards near the old workbench. I moved carefully, every creak of the wood under my feet making me flinch. It felt like someone could be watching me, even though I knew that was impossible. Or at least, I hoped it was. I found the loose board after a few minutes of searching. My hands were shaking so badly it took me a few tries to pull it up. Underneath, covered in dust and spider webs, was a small metal box. It wasn't locked, just latched shut. I hesitated for a long moment before flipping it open. Inside were more letters, a few small black notebooks, and a flash drive taped to the underside of the lid. There was also an envelope marked, "For emergencies only." Everything about it screamed danger, but also desperation. My husband hadn't hidden this stuff because he didn't trust me. He had hidden it because he was scared. Really scared. I grabbed everything and closed the box, heart pounding in my ears. Just as I turned to leave, the garage light flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Was it just the bulb, or was someone out there? I forced myself to move, feeling my way back to the door. My fingers found the handle just as I heard it, a soft creaking sound from the far end of the garage, near the storage shelves. I wasn't imagining it. Someone or something was there. I yanked the door open and bolted into the house, slamming it behind me and locking it. Daniel ran toward me, his face pale. I tried to act calm for his sake, but inside, I was unraveling. I didn't know if someone had been in the garage with me, or if my own fear was playing tricks on me. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. I had to find out what my husband had been hiding, and fast. I took the flash drive and plugged it into my laptop, my hands trembling so badly I could barely type. The screen loaded, and a folder popped up labeled simply, "For her eyes only." Inside were dozens of files, some labeled with dates, others with strange names I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted into knots as I clicked the first file, praying for answers but terrified of what I might find. And then, the screen filled with something that made my blood run cold. The screen flashed for a second, and then a video started playing. The footage was shaky, almost like it had been recorded in secret. I leaned in closer, my heart hammering against my ribs. At first I didn't understand what I was seeing. It looked like a dark parking lot, cars scattered around, and people moving quietly, almost too quietly. But then I saw him, my husband. He wasn't alone. He was talking to two men I had never seen before. Their faces were blurred, hidden by the grainy quality of the video, but their body language was sharp, tense, like they were arguing about something serious. I turned the volume up, but there was no sound, just silence, making it feel even more eerie. The video cut off suddenly, and a second file started playing automatically. This time it was photos, dozens of them. My husband at different places, gas stations, parks, even outside what looked like an abandoned warehouse. Sometimes he was with those same shadowy men. Other times he was alone, looking over his shoulder like he knew he was being watched. My mind raced with questions. Was he in some kind of trouble? Was he working with these people? Or worse, was he trying to protect us from them? Before I could process any of it, I heard a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks, quick and deliberate. I froze, staring at the front door like it might come alive. It was almost midnight. Nobody should have been here at this hour. Daniel clutched my arm, his eyes wide with fear. I muted the laptop and moved carefully to the window, peeking through the curtain. A black car was parked outside. I couldn't see who was inside, but the engine was still running. My heart dropped into my stomach. Whoever they weren't lost. Another knock, louder this time. I pulled Daniel close and backed away from the window. I didn't know if I should answer or hide. Every instinct in me screamed that opening that door would be the worst mistake of my life. My mind flashed back to the letter, to the phone number my husband had left. Maybe this was why he had warned me. Maybe the danger he feared was now at my doorstep. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. I clicked it open with shaking hands. It read, "You have something that belongs to us. Open the door." The blood drained from my face. This wasn't random. They knew exactly who I was. They knew I had the box, and now they were here to take it, or worse. For a moment, the house felt like it was holding its breath with me. I knew whatever decision I made next could change everything. I had to think fast. But one thing was clear. This night was far from over, and the worst was still ahead. My mind was racing faster than my body could keep up. I knew I couldn't open the door. I had no idea who was out there or what they were capable of. I grabbed Daniel's hand and led him quickly to the back of the house, my heart hammering in my chest. We slipped into the laundry room, the farthest spot from the front door, and I locked the door behind us. I pulled my phone out again, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. Without thinking, I called the number my husband had left in the letter. It rang once, then twice, and just when I thought no one would answer, a deep voice picked up. "Is it happening?" the man asked immediately, like he had been expecting this call. "Yes," I whispered, barely able to breathe. "Someone's outside. They're demanding something my husband left behind." The man didn't ask questions. He just said, "Stay where you are. Help is already on the way. Do not open the door." I clutched the phone tighter, holding Daniel close. Minutes felt like hours as we sat there, listening to the faint sound of the knocking growing more aggressive. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. Silence. I waited, barely daring to breathe. Then came the flashing lights, red and blue bouncing across the walls of the house. I heard shouting, doors slamming, the unmistakable sound of people being forced to the ground. I peeked out and saw several officers surrounding the black car, weapons drawn. Relief flooded through me so hard I almost collapsed. Later, when the officers questioned me, I finally learned the truth. My husband had been working undercover, trying to expose a criminal ring that operated right under everyone's noses. The men outside weren't random. They were dangerous people who had been after him for months. Everything he had hidden was to protect me and Daniel. As I sat there trying to absorb it all, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Nervous, I opened the message. "It's not over." I stared at the screen, a chill running down my spine. Because somehow, deep down, I knew the real danger hadn't even started yet. I sat there in the living room long after the flashing lights had faded away and the officers had left. Daniel had finally fallen asleep on the couch, worn out from the fear and confusion of the night. I pulled a blanket over him and sat down beside him, staring at the letter my husband had left, the flash drive still plugged into my laptop. My mind was a storm of emotions: fear, anger, sadness, and something else I couldn't quite name yet. Maybe it was a sense of strength I didn't know I had. The officers told me that the people who came to our door were part of a much bigger group. They believed my husband had evidence that could destroy them, and they had been desperate to find it. What they didn't know was that my husband had hidden it, not just from them, but from everyone, trusting only me to uncover it if anything ever went wrong. It made me realize just how much he had sacrificed, how much he had carried alone to keep us safe. I spent the next few days working closely with the authorities, handing over everything my husband had hidden: the notebooks, the flash drive, even the instructions. They told me I had likely saved not just my own family, but many others too. It was a heavy burden to bear, but somehow, knowing the truth made me feel a little less afraid. Life slowly started to return to normal, or at least a new kind of normal. I changed the locks, installed cameras around the house, and learned to be more cautious. I also talked with Daniel every day, making sure he felt safe and loved, even if he didn't understand everything that had happened. But late at night, when the house was quiet, I sometimes thought about that last text message. It's not over. Maybe it was just a scare tactic. Maybe they had been caught and there was nothing left to fear. Or maybe somewhere out there, someone was still watching, still waiting. Whatever the future held, I knew one thing for sure. No matter how scared I was, no matter what shadows came knocking at my door, I would fight for my family. I would stand my ground, because this night had changed me forever, and there was no going back.